Almost a year ago, on July 23rd, the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said that to Trump and his allies, United States must know that the peace with Iran is the mother of all peace, and the war with Iran is the mother of all wars. Trump does not play with the lion's tail. It will only lead to regret. Trump responded in a series of tweets that read, "Never again will they threaten the U.S. or suffer the consequences that few have suffered." It seems that both determination is kept. The speeches continue along this path of opposites who identify each other as archenemies. This is what we're going to be speaking about today, U.S.-Iran towards an impending war. We will be having more information, display the map, have guests, and as always, we're going to have your opinions. Thank you for being with us. Let's start. There's a lot of information. This Monday, Iran, as its government announced on July 3rd and ratified it on Sunday the 7th, crossed the barrier to established to enrich uranium. It went from 3.67% to 4.5%. It assures that it will decrease commitments every 60 days. They want to safeguard the 2015 initial agreement, but on equal terms, all respecting their obligation. It is not a question of violating the agreements just for the sake of violating, but of exerting pressure on the field of diplomacy. Yesterday, in an annual summit of the Christians United by Israel held in Washington, Mr. Bolton and Mr. Pence, Security Advisor and Vice President of the U.S., respectively, set positions. The first said, "We will continue to press for an agreement that is the worst debacle in history. We are just beginning." And the second said, "We will stop Iranians' evil influence no matter what." Let's hear them. Iran says it wants to safeguard the nuclear agreement. We have just restored the paralyzing sanctions that had originally brought Tehran to the negotiating table. But we did not stop there. The President's goal is to get a new deal that is negotiated in the best interest of the United States. Iran must not confuse our moderation with the lack of determination. We hope for the best, but the United States and its army is prepared to protect our interests, our personnel, our citizens in the region. We will continue to oppose Iran's evil influence. We will continue to exert pressure on our economy, on their economy, and under President Donald Trump, the United States will never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. On the past, Abbas Khosravi, the Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran, said that all of the options are possible in the future steps. And there was an explanation of this. All options are possible in the future steps, even that Tehran definitely withdraws from the agreement. But no decision has yet been taken. We have to wait and see what happens in the immediate future. Okay, now let's display our map and locate Iran. Let's go. We find the Middle East, Western Asia. There we find Iran. It shelters more than 82 million people of diverse ethnicities in 648,000 square kilometers. It is a significant importance. It has significant importance in geopolitics, and it lies between the Middle East, Central Asia, and South Asia. Its capital is Tehran, the country's political, industrial, commercial, and cultural center. Iran is a regional power due to its large hydrocarbon reserve, fourth oil reserve, and first gas reserve worldwide. It is a potential energy superpower, and for decades they have had a substantial oil income. And in the strategic geography, there is a pivotal point, one of the most economically and politically relevant sea crossings in the world. Let's define it.
De las medidas restrictivas que sistemáticamente ha impuesto Estados Unidos bajo esa excusa. Irán enriquece uranio con fines guerreristas, sin que exista prueba alguna. Bueno, esto es importante.
Well, all of this is important.
Hay un punto neurálgico, medular allí, de la espina dorsal.
As I was telling you, this crossing, this oil sea crossing, the Strait of Hormuz is a route of strategic importance through which more than a third of the oil passes by. It is a key point for global hydrocarbon trade. This narrow sea path lies between the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf. To the southwest, on the northern coast of Iran, is located, and in the south, the Oman and the enclave of Mosandam. The territorial waters of Iran in the Hormuz Strait cover approximately 22 kilometers. On the other bank, the territorial waters of Oman in this area have similar extension. Although the sea arm which connects the Persian Gulf with the Indian Ocean is located among several nations, it has historically been the country in charge of its security. The maritime traffic from the countries of the Persian Gulf, major energy producers, converge in the strait, including the crude oil exports and liquefied gas from Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. Closing the Hormuz crossing could lead to instability in the oil prices and in the global economy. It is one of the most economically and politically relevant geographical features in the world. Now we're going to websites to complete all the information. Today, July 9th, Sputnik, the Russian information agency, says Russia ready for a ministerial meeting on the Iranian nuclear agreement. Let's see more information. Let's open up. And I'm going to paraphrase what it said. Lavrov said that Russia is ready to meet at ministerial level, but there are still no agreements on this. The only way to solve the crisis is for all signatories to respect the commitments made. What was created with great effort must not be broken, he added.
Y que ha contribuido tremendamente a la no proliferación de armas nucleares, sino a su preservación. Dice él, ¿no? A preservar el acuerdo.
We have more information here. In the same sense, China has spoken in the same sense by saying that it is a commitment made within the Security Council that cannot be ignored.
Violado o ignorado así nomás.
Days before, let's review Mayadeen in July 7th. Israel said through Benjamin Netanyahu demanded European action against Iran. Here we have that as the title. And on Sunday, the Prime Minister of Israel urged the European leaders, United Kingdom, Germany, and France, to impose more sanctions on Iran because its announcement is very dangerous and can only be aimed at manufacturing nuclear weapons. This is for war. That's Israel's position. It's very much like the American one. Let's go to BBC World, July 8th. It says, Trump government is inept, leaking confidential messages from the United Kingdom ambassador to Washington. He also called him insecure and incompetent. This was said in a leaked mail and revealed by the British Daily Mail, released this Sunday. The British ambassador in the U.S. Capitol, Sir Kim Darroch, among other things, said that the White House is exceptionally dysfunctional and divided under Trump mandate. The British Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, noted that the leaked memos reflect Darroch's personal vision rather than one of the government. And the content is not denied. I recommend that you read this article of Latin press of Martha Andrés Román. The title is United States-Iran, the path of confrontation opened by Trump. And it says, among other things, at the end of May, Trump reported that he would send another 1,500 soldiers to the Middle East to counteract Iran's influence on the area. And in the middle of June, the Pentagon unveiled the deployment of another 1,000 soldiers. He accused Tehran of attacking 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman on June 13, which was denied by the Persian nation and questioned even by the Washington allies. On June 21st, meanwhile, the head of the White House approved military attacks on Iran, which he then suspended at the last moment in response to the shooting down of an American drone. There we have more facts that allow us to put everything in context. And once again, we ask, what is the interest of the U.S. in attacking Iran? Let's Hisham Wanous from Damascus, Syria. Hello, Hisham. Hello, colleagues. Effectively, this Sunday, July 7th, Tehran announced to increase the level of enrichment of its uranium. It will increase the uranium production up to the top, the level that it could if they need to use it for specific activities. The measure was adopted after having waited for the 60-day deadline that it had given after it had been waiting. So they were waiting for compensation against all of the measures imposed by the U.S. It has been confirmed that they are enriching uranium over the limit that it was set. The authorities had said before that they need uranium for the nuclear central and 20% for an investigation reactor. Because the enriching uranium to the 20% is just an option, and that is also foreseen in the agreement. And if the next 60 days Europe does not comply with their part of the deal, they will also continue enriching more uranium. So Europe has 2 months to lift all the sanctions to the oil exportation and to the banking system of Tehran. They assure that they will go for a third step very firmly. However, they say that all of these steps are reversible if the European countries fulfill their parts. However, they are not doing so, and they asked Iran to go back on their actions. Although they are the country that is most affected by the blocking on behalf of the U.S. For its United States will to go forward with these sanctions, and nobody can make them go back on them. So Iran, the best option would be to reach a new agreement. Iran affirms that their nuclear program is just seeking pacific ends, and they do not plan to make a nuclear bomb because that goes against their religious doctrine. However, Israel accuses Iran of wanting to make a nuclear bomb, and that increases the pressure and sanctions on Tehran. And this is, of course, because Iran is among the few countries that stand front to Israel. This is all of the information we have for now. Let's go back to studios. We ask ourselves, Is Iran getting closer to the war devastating effects? Does the nuclear agreement agonize with no possibility of a rescue? These would be throwing out of the board 2 years of intense negotiation. And is there no possibility to rescue it? This is what we're going to be analyzing with our analysts. Our play today is U.S., Iran. Is this an imminent war? What will happen with the treaty? We see that the tensions go increasing. Let's go to the recent hostilities. After the great powers of the world had reached agreements after arduous and intense negotiations, the United States accused Iran of secretly enriching uranium in spite of the Vienna 5+1 agreement in 2015. That is what President Donald Trump argued to leave unexpectedly. In May 2018, of the pact that was signed by France, United Kingdom, Germany, China, and Russia during the last days of Obama's administration. When he announced his withdrawal, Trump accused Iran of the largest exporter of terrorism and described the pact as defective. However, the International Atomic Energy Organization, in 12 consecutive reports, concluded that Iran was correctly complying with its part of the agreement. On November 5th, the policy of tightening unilateral and extraterritorial coercive measures was extended. A total embargo on central bank and threatening other governments and transnationals to face serious consequences should they dare to continue trading with Iran. The main nations that acquire Iranian crude are India, Italy, Greece, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, and China. In May of this year, the United States adopted a new package of sanctions prohibiting any country from buying the surplus heavy water and enriched uranium from Iran. Financial sanctions are added against Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and many of the officials of his current government. Potential nuclear Iran, how is this regulated, and how could it prove that it's just for peaceful and scientific means? What does the IAEA say? Iran has at least 7 nuclear facilities: Arak heavy water reactor, Bushehr nuclear power plant, Qashim a uranium mine, Isfahan uranium conversion plant, uranium enrichment plants at Natsnas and Fordo, and the area of Parchin complex, which allegedly serves as munition manufacturing center. According to the latest report of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran has a nuclear potential of more than 5,000 active centrifuges. This means that it complies with the 2015 nuclear agreement, which commits it to maximum of 5.0 IR 1 centrifuge over the next decade, a total of 109.5 kilograms of enriched uraniums at the 3.5%, a figure below the 300 kilo enriched to 3.67, which the pact stipulates as a maximum. And that is low-grade 235 uranium with a concentration of 3 to 4% serves to produce fuel from nuclear plants, enriched to 90% of the production of nuclear weapons. At this point, the Atomic Energy Organization also ensures that there has been compliance. Monitoring did not exceed 130 metric tons, the maximum set in the joint agreement. And in regards of the research reactor at Tehran, capable of producing up to 600 grams of plutonium per year, Iran compromised not to put it into operation and rather design it so it could not produce plutonium suitable for manufacturing of nuclear weapons. Let's ask one more of our analysts to come with us. We have Arturo Gal, law professor from the University of Jena in Germany, where he lives, and Dr. Layo Sassi Leon Borja, professor of the International University of Puerto Rico, specialist analyst in security, defense, and military intelligence. Welcome, professors both. Let's start with Arturo. Latest facts give us a sign of what will of what Trump administration has been doing. You cannot trust them. They've lost all credibility. And in no aspect, not even in the negotiation with their counterparts. In a law perspective, let's not forget. Let's imagine that you signed a contract to buy a house, and then the seller decides not to honor the contract. Although you've been paying, he decides unilaterally, he decides that he's not going to give you the house. So, of course, this person stops making all the payments. But later, the seller demands that the contract be in place and that you keep on paying. But you're not going to get the house at the end. So this is exactly what's going on. This agreement with the nuclear agreement. So the international community wants Iran to comply. For example, the Deutsche Welle just published saying that Iran starts to not comply to the agreement, although the U.S. abandoned the pact altogether. So here, once again, we see the double morale of the Trump administration that is characterized exactly for this, of an administration that does not follow their own word, that does not honor what they've said. We see all of the political characteristics of Trump. Now, let's talk to our next guest, Layo Sassi Leon Borja. From your vision, do you think that the 2015 agreement will be discarded? Is it possible to list the several concrete consequences? Well, in fact, that the United States does not want to stop, and they want to ignore the 2015 agreement. They don't want to comply, and they don't want to negotiate on the same level, and they want to impose Iran some conditions that are unfair for them. Well, I don't think that the nuclear agreement can have any chances of surviving unless the European Union would strive to comply what they had said they would do, And what they were going to do is to compensate Iran all of the money that Iran is losing due to the sanctions of the U.S. That's what Germany had agreed to. Well, basically the European Union. And what they were going to do is that they were going to buy this crude from them, and in that way they could favor Iran and promote commercial exchange. And this could avoid that the sanctions on the U.S. could support Iran in some way. But however, Iran, who depends on their exports of crude, it is not enough that Europe is going to intend something, is going to try something. They need results. And I would like to add that the nuclear agreement with Iran of 2015 was really to calm the United States down, just to be sure that Iran had no nuclear weapons, which of course they do not have. And of course this is how it was registered, how it was said by the Organism of Atomic Energy. Additionally, the intelligence service also certified that Iran, since many years ago, they have not had a plan of weapons of nuclear content. So, Iran does have a right to pursue a nuclear program for civil goals. Iran sacrificed their program of uranium enrichment for the generation of plutonium, because all of this was interpreted as trying to make a nuclear bomb. To judge Iran, they say that they have no intention of nuclear weapons. Listen to all of the other agencies too. I just want to add briefly that enriching uranium has given
del isótopo uranio 235 al 90 o 93% no es automáticamente.
This is not an automatic proof that they want nuclear weapons, because this percentage is allowed to make medical instruments and medical supplies. Because many other substances can be developed. So the fact that they are enriching uranium at 90%, it doesn't mean that they have nuclear bombs, because they don't know what they're saying. On the other hand, if uranium is enriched to 20%, which would be considered an impoverished uranium, then in that case, that would also be to produce medical supplies, because you need, with 20% of the enrichment growth, you would need better infrastructure. So it's
para lograr enriquecer, para producir, para tener,
So what they
digamos
want is to
que la
produce.
potencia radioactiva, la potencia energética, perdón, para poder producir esos isótopos médicos.
Importante esa
That is
aclaratoria,
important,
profesor Layos, porque mucho se
Dr.
especula y
Laios,
se
because
manipula al
a
respecto,
lot
¿no?
has been
Y como es una
speculated
cuestión tan
on
técnica,
this,
evidentemente
and this is such
se
a
presta, siempre
technical
se presta confusión. Allí teníamos al
topic.
profesor Layos, se lo cuestiona muchísimo Irán, Arturo, profesor
Iran
Layos.
is
Sin embargo, en febrero
heavily
de
attacked.
2018 se conoció un documento
However, in
llamado La
February,
revisión de la postura nuclear que
there
explica de qué va la doctrina
was a paper that
estadounidense en
explained
esta área. Hay unos puntitos a destacar,
where
tres
the
específicamente, vamos a escucharlo y volvemos con nuestros invitados.
policy goes.
Estados Unidos
The
asegura
United
que
States
Rusia, China,
assures
Corea
that
del
Russia,
Norte
China,
e Irán
North Korea,
concretan
and
amenazas
Iran
sin precedentes y justifican mejoramiento
are
de su
a,
arsenal nuclear, misiles intercontinentales,
are a
submarinos
threat to
y
the U.S.
bombarderos, diciendo que Rusia
And they say that
moderniza su
Russia
potencial
is
para
in
recuperar
reaching
su
their
estatus de
situation
superpotencia.
to have their
Trump
status
dice
of
que toda acción
superpower.
responde a una visión realista y a la necesidad de
Trump
disuasión.
says that all
En
of the
este sentido,
actions
Estados
come
Unidos se otorga
behind
a sí mismo
an
licencia
actions.
para
So
usar
the
fuerza
U.S. gives them
nuclear en
license to
escenarios no
use
nucleares, siempre y cuando
nuclear
estos
weapons
hayan causado bajas masivas o tengan como objetivos infraestructuras claves.
if they're
La
going to
defensa
attack
de
the
intereses
U.S.
vitales de Estados Unidos,
The defense
aliados y
of
socios
strategic
siempre
interests of the
será el
U.S.
objetivo.
will always be the
Finalmente,
objective.
desdibuja la línea entre lo nuclear y lo no nuclear, al
And
establecer que las fuerzas
it
militares
establishes
de
that
un
the
área y otra deben
defense
integrarse.
should
Aprueba
integrate.
la modernización de
It
los aviones de
approves
combate F-35 para
the enriching
transportar
of
bombas y misiles
F-35.
nucleares.
Repito, documento de febrero de 2018.
I repeat, this is of
sobre el
February
cual decía el senador
2018.
ruso Franz Klintsevich, por esa misma fecha, es un intento de reaccionar
And Franz
a cambios que
Klintsevich said
ponen
that
en
it's the
entredicho
date
el dominio de una
that is an
sola
attempt to
potencia,
react
es
to
decir,
change
el unilateralismo de
to the
Estados
so-called
Unidos,
into
y
question of
escuchamos
dominance
allí
of the
Irán
single
está
power.
claramente entre los objetivos fijados
And
por
Iran is
Rusia.
among the targets that have
Quiero
been
la
set.
posición o la opinión al respecto del profesor Arturo.
What is your position, Professor
Gracias.
Arturo?
Me parece muy atinado lo que ha comentado mi compañero de tertulia, el doctor, porque mucho se habla de la capacidad nuclear de Irán.
A lot has been said about Iran's capacity.
De los pormenores técnicos del asunto.
And we don't have the details of all of this.
Este proceso de enriquecimiento de uranio, etc. A mí me gustaría ir en lo político.
I would like about the political topic.
Esto responde
And I think this is just of political interests. And I would like also an analyze that Iran had to sacrifice a nuclear civil program due to the promise that the sanctions would be lifted and that they could negotiate with the petroleum. This has caused two different poles of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He was opposed to letting go of their plan because he knew that nothing could be attained. However, with the U.S., the more you give them, the more they want. You give them a concession, and then they want another one. And it's never enough for them. So they want a government that's submissive to their interests. So I think that that your report is very accurate because this is a political move that pretends to monopolize the discussion of who and how could nuclear power be attained. But of course they try to block those countries that are not submissive. And they try to block these countries that want to develop a nuclear potential that is just serving for their peaceful intentions of civil development. Iran, for example, does not have a military nuclear plan. However, Israel is attacking Iran, and they're killing scientists from Iran. Israel is another key factor in this power struggle. I would like to go back to our other professor. Tightening sanctions, Trump has increased the military presence there. Is this part of a well-organized strategy to put pressure, economic and propaganda pressures on Iran? The people who are around Iran, around Trump, they think that they're the way to... But also, Trump, without a doubt, has increased his military presence in the region. And he tries to justify it, saying that he has intelligence information of attempts of Iran to attack U.S. forces. So, where is all this going to? Well, we're under the impression that since they can't overthrow the Iranian government, of course what they want is the economy to collapse, and so the people will attack their own government. And they wanted to make them a very weak government. Let's not forget that the previous president, the Shah of Iran, he was a very close ally to the U.S. and to Israel, because it was a way Yeah, let's not forget the Iraq of Saddam Hussein. Apparently, it seems that since they are not able to bend Iran with any type of measures, and now what they're doing is they're not allowing Iran to sell any type of the resources. So what they try is to cause incidents, to cause a military war. It's not only an economic sanction, it's an intelligent front too. And about the sabotage acts, I'm talking about the 13th of May incidents of the 2 oil carriers that were bombed. I wrote a blog on this topic. And it was never determined that it was Iran. Apparently, it's forces from other side. It was the attack was carried out in June. In my opinion, it wasn't Iran either. It was somebody else that was working under the control of the U.S. They're fabricating incidents. This the other one about the drone, the American drone that was brought down by Iran. They probably wanted them to bring down that aircraft, so they would have a cause. What they're looking for is an excuse to interfere in Iran and bombard Iran.
tripulado, en eso fueron inteligentes y simplemente derribaron el no tripulado, y aún así Washington estaba dispuesto a bombardear, excepto que, como se dice, Trump, pues, al no haber víctimas,
And at the end of the moment, since there was no human incidents, Trump did not start the war. But that's what they're doing. They're just trying to provoke. And that's where you can see the pressure of Israel on Trump due to the son-in-law of Trump, Jared Kushner, who is now, we can call him closer.
En Nueva York, en una de esas ocasiones, o sea que una estrecha amistad.
There is a very close relationship there. Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, who is also a Jewish Orthodox that has very strong ties with Israel, along with Mike Pompeo, who sees everything from a biblical standpoint. And what they think is that Trump is put there by God to help Israel against Iran, just like the Old Testament says. They are very different cases, but this is how these fundamental Christians always talk about. Let's not forget Michael Pence, the vice president. He's evangelist. He always sees things from the biblical standpoint. And therefore he will go to the end of all this. So in that sense, we'll have to see how the European Union acts to avoid these Persian Gulf countries to go into a war. And just for the last thing, this is from Delta File, an intelligence website that's open to the people. They say that they have access to an Israeli intelligence. And what they say is that the F-35 that are invisible to radars, because they're just attack weapons, could get to Iraq. And since they're not going to be attacked by anything, it's going to be easier for them. So unfortunately, the story does not end. And Iran has the right to exploit their nuclear power, since the rest of the countries did not follow up on the agreement. She speaks very much of the Europeans who speak too much but don't do much. Very much to both of our guests.
Muchísimas gracias por el tiempo que ha concedido a nuestra audiencia. Hasta una próxima. Bueno, decía el profesor Lajos en esta última parte
Professor Lajos said in his last part,
¿qué tanto pueden hacer
how much
la Unión
can
Europea,
the
China,
European
Rusia,
Union,
Israel? Entonces,
China, and Israel do?
La disputa con Irán.
Well, let's see the dispute with Iran. You can see
potencias geoeconómicamente dominantes,
that is fragmented and under the will of the U.S. How much can they mediate or spin the balance? Let's go to a pause and we'll be back.
De nuestro invitado de una vez y ya venimos con más. Hacia esa dirección nos encaminamos.
United States, Iran. Is this an imminent war? What's going to happen with the 2015 agreement? Well, Iran says that the members of the agreement are not fulfilling the conditions, and that's why he set some deadlines. But since things did not happen, they just withdrew. When Trump left the agreement, the Europeans guaranteed that they would cover all of the economic needs, and they were going to be giving them exchanged for things. So the idea was that the hydrocarbons could be changed for European goods without having to use the economic money exchange. Apparently, it was insufficient, since Iran gave a 60-day deadline to the European signing members to compensate the sanctions imposed by the U.S. Because it's impossible to be in agreement where only Iran complies with the conditions. Mohammad Javad Zarif said that the European countries have no excuse not to have a strong political position and confront the unilateralism of the U.S. The French President, Emmanuel Macron, criticized the U.S. of not complying all of the conditions. Federica Mogherini also said the communications are open because there could be a possible meeting of the presidents of France and Iran before the June 15th. Let's continue with the analysis. Let's go to Martín Pulgar. He's political analyst. Thank you very much for your invitation. Does Europe have a position? Well, I think that they don't have any geopolitical power. They think that I think that in this infinite war that the United States is holding out, if we just look a bit from the back, if we just see all of the world, the United States has also a war that's trying to submit some countries. So Trump thinks that Iran is a fundamental piece. And of course, some countries have already been bent. The United States will not allow Europe unified or divided is able to present something different than what the United States has always settled. He's in this conflict. The United States is in the middle of a war with Iran, with Russia, with Venezuela. So in Europe, that saw that this agreement might be closed, they said, well, okay, let's go for the exchange of products. Now we can see that this possibility is closing down. So Europe doesn't have much to say anymore. They have not been able to establish a line, a clear, unified line in their role in the Middle East and with the U.S. So let's analyze a little bit more how the U.S. has been able to almost nullify what the European Union does. What do you think is the future? Well, I think that we're in a war, at war with Iran. And some of these countries that are not aligned with one or the other, let's not forget of the upcoming American elections. And he needs to unify the Israeli position towards his support. And there's also an evangelical strong group that he needs to get their support. Unfortunately, I think that the agreement is going to die. There is no future. Well,
presiones muy duras,
let's recall that
renegociaciones de
Trump
acuerdos,
is
lo hizo
very
también con
strong
el caso
on
del
strong
Tratado de
sanctions.
Comercio con Canadá y México. Digamos, es un estilo
So it's
donde
a style where he
trata de
pressures.
meter en estas rupturas de acuerdos
He
a
tries to
otros
put
autores, el caso
people,
de
other
China con respecto a los
actors.
tratados misilísticos de corto alcance, el caso de
The
Irán,
case
ahora
of
que
Iran,
quisiera meter otros
now they
elementos,
want to
como
include somebody
por ejemplo,
else.
el uso de la tecnología, no solamente nuclear, sino misilística, o inclusive cualquier otro que considere que puede
Maybe
poner en
any
riesgo
other that could
su
put at
supremacía,
risk
como
their
los Estados Unidos
supremacy
o los aliados que están en torno a Irán.
or their
Por
allies.
desgracia, yo veo que este acuerdo,
Unfortunately,
tal cual como
I
se
see that
firmó,
this
creo que
agreement
no tiene un mayor
doesn't
futuro,
have
y
future.
quizás se debe plantear
And
algún
maybe
proceso de negociación en un futuro.
It would be better to have a new
No sé en qué
negotiation in the
términos.
future. I don't know on what terms.
Claro.
Una reunión ministerial, a escala ministerial, con ello podríamos empezar.
So
pero
maybe we could start with this
lamentablemente
meeting
no hay
at
los acuerdos como
ministerial
No, seguramente
level.
no va a ser a la
Although-
usanza de los Estados Unidos. Irán va a presionar y va a aumentar
Well,
su nivel de
I don't think it's going to
enriquecimiento
happen
uranio
because
como una
Iran is
forma
going
de
to
decir,
keep
bueno,
on
si queremos
pressuring
renegociar
and
algo, yo voy a subir en
elevating
escala
their
a mayor
enrichment,
nivel para ver en qué
uranium
nivel
enrichment. Because what they say is, of course, if you don't comply with the conditions, I will enrich more uranium.
Se hacían muchos análisis sobre
Well, some months ago there was
que tiene que ver con
analysis
los vehículos de propósito especial, que era
of
un
these
compromiso que adquirió
cars
la Unión
of special
Europea,
purpose.
con Irán, y decíamos nosotros en la investigación
And in the
equiparables a la vieja
investigation,
forma de trueque usada en una fase de la Guerra Fría
we
por
thought
Unión
that this could be
Soviética,
like
en
a
alusión a un análisis que ha
exchange
hecho
program.
el profesor mexicano Alfredo Jalife, también experto en geopolítica. Y bueno, la idea era que
So the
Irán
idea
pudiera
was
vender hidrocarburos
that
a los
exchange
países
for
de la Unión Europea
hydrocarbons
interesados,
to
y
the
que ésta
European
pudiera
Union,
ofrecer sus
and
bienes y servicios a cambio, también
and
para
they
paliar
could
un poco el
send
efecto de las
services,
sanciones,
goods and
sin tener que
services
pasar
back
por, el sistema
without having to
financiero
go through
dominado
banks
globalmente por Estados Unidos.
that is
¿Qué ha
dominated on a
pasado con
worldwide
eso?
scale by the
Es que es muy
US.
difícil que
What do
Europa
you think?
rompa la
Well,
relación,
I think it's very hard to break
prácticamente
for Europe
unívoca de un mundo.
to break the relationship
Estados Unidos y Europa es uno solo, es una cosa
with the
integrada,
US.
única.
Because the US and
Es muy
the
difícil
Europe
que los hilos
is
conductores de
one
estas
thing
finanzas
altogether.
internacionales y que este mundo cultural europeo, Estados Unidos,
And this cultural world,
se pueda quebrar. Entonces,
it's very hard that
no
this
niego
cultural
la
world might
posibilidad de que
break.
Europa quisiera,
I don't
tener
deny
algún
that
mecanismo, un
maybe
vaso comunicante con Irán, pero la presión de
European
Estados
Union
Unidos,
would want
los
to have some
intereses de
communication
Europa en
with
Estados
Iran.
Unidos y de las compañías norteamericanas en Europa van
However,
a presionar para que
the pressures
no se ponga en
of
entredicho
American
esos
organizations that work in
intereses.
Europe
Irán,
will not allow.
si Irán pues puede llegar a un acuerdo, es difícil
I think that
que
reaching an
entre en
agreement would be
confrontación
different.
Europa con Estados Unidos. Lo veo muy, muy complicado.
¿Y el resto de los actores en la región?
And the rest of the actors in the
¿Deberían
region,
inclinar la balanza
do you think they could
en
tip the
favor
balance
hacia Irán?
in favor of Iran or the other side?
Yo
Well,
creo que Irán va a seguir
I
actuando
think
en este
Iran will
proceso de
continue
enriquecimiento
to
de
work
uranio,
in
va a
the
seguir
uranium
actuando
enrichment,
bajo presión, y Rusia y China
and Russia and
en
China.
una conformación, porque no hay que olvidar que no solamente el problema es con Irán, el problema es todo el tablero global.
Well, let's not forget
donde
the
el
problem is
escenario está en
not
que
just with
hay un
Iran, it's also with the rest of the
cuestionamiento de
world.
Estados Unidos por el surgimiento de nuevos polos.
And what the US doesn't want is new
geopolíticos,
superpowers
de
to
influencia,
appear.
el surgimiento de Rusia y de China y
Russia,
entre ellos el mismo Irán
China.
como influyente en la zona.
They
y
feel
más
that
allá
like they,
en el
they have
espacio
like a
global.
strong
Entonces, yo sí
influence
creo
on their
que,
zone. So I do
aquí los
think
actores
that
relevantes
those
realmente van a
relevant
ser China
actors
y
are going to
Rusia,
be
que van a
China,
actuar en el
Russia,
inicio con Irán,
and
con
at the beginning they
negociaciones
will
entre ellos
work with
para
Iran.
presionar a Europa y
But
a
later
Estados
they
Unidos a
won't
un
because
acuerdo
they just want
favorable
to
para
use them as a
no,
pressure
ciertamente,
point
la no proliferación de armas
to
nucleares,
accept
que es
any
un
type
tema
of treaty the
que
US
debe
presents
estar
them.
claro, pues. Y por supuesto garantizar el uso pacífico de
And
la
of
energía nuclear
course,
como un acto soberano de cualquier país. Tú no puedes negarle el uso de la tecnología, el uso de la técnica y de la
You can't deny
industrialización
any
a ningún
country
país.
the
Lo
use
que
of
tiene
their
que estar claro en todo
weapons,
caso es que estos procesos
of the
de
resources.
armas nucleares
What is clear
no deben
is that
estar,
these
no
processes
debe proliferar y además debe
of
extinguirse
nuclear
en
enrichment
la
should
globalidad,
not
pues.
prosper.
Que la poseen en este momento.
Las consecuencias serían
Because the
devastadoras
consequences
para el
might be
mundo.
devastating for humanity itself. Thank you very much, Martín.
Pasemos a nuestras ideas conclusivas sobre la base de este compendio de
Let's go
información y
to
análisis que hemos tenido en la jugada.
To our conclusions.
Bueno, en medio de estos
Well,
mensajes bélicos, de esta
what we
oratoria
see
tan
is
dura,
that
de frases gruesas, definitivamente naufraga
the
la
nuclear
agilidad del
pact
pacto
is a
nuclear, en eso
shipwreck.
coinciden nuestros invitados. En este marco descrito,
It is
no
described
tiene
a
futuro un
framework
pacto
that
de
has no
soluciones.
future.
Ello abre
It
la
opens
puerta
the
a más
door to more
tensiones
tensions.
geopolíticas. Estados
The United
Unidos
States is
desarrolla una
waging
guerra
a
híbrida
hybrid
contra
war
nuestro
and
país,
displaying
deja ver su doble
a
moral,
double
su
standard, as
legitimidad y
always.
credibilidad
Its
cuestionada,
legitimacy and
porque se
credibility
retira de
is
pactos
called into
internacionales
question
casi sin
because
más.
it simply
Irán
withdraws
demuestra
from
resistencia, su
international
intención de no
covenants.
dejarse
Iran shows
someter,
resistance
con una
and its
violación
intention
a
not to
su
be
soberanía.
subdued.
Europa, con peso
Europe, with a
geopolítico de niños
geopolitical weight
programados
coming
y
to
con
less or
dificultad para
diminished,
quebrar hilos de dominación
and
financiera
difficulty
que
to
ejerce
break
Estados Unidos,
strands
con
of
gobiernos
financial
subordinados,
domination exercised by the
parece que
United
no
States,
apostará a la supervivencia de
will
este acuerdo, porque
not
sencillamente
bet
no puede
on
hacerlo.
the
El lobby
survival
israelí,
of
a favor
Israel,
también de Estados Unidos,
of
es
Iran.
una suerte
The
de
Israeli
guerra infinita.
lobbies
Sigamos
is in
viendo esta
favor of the
jugada
United States
crítica
as
que aún
well
no
as
termina. Ya veremos el
as well as
desenlace
other
y usted siga en
allies.
sintonía
We'll
de
see
TV
how
Sur.
this
Gracias por
all ends.
acompañarnos
Thank you
como
for
siempre.
being with
Hasta
us.
pronto.